A Grief Observed. Chapter 4. You never know how much faith you really have until faith is a matter of life and death. It's easy to say you believe in a rope when you're only using it to tie a box. But suppose you had to hang on to it over a precipice. Would you really believe in it then? In my soul, I know well that belief is a different thing in such a scenario. It is a long and painful process, but through these trials, God is shaping and strengthening us. Acceptance of suffering and loss as part of the divine plan is to acknowledge that God, in his infinite wisdom, is shaping every detail of our lives with a greater purpose. Although it is often difficult to see the full picture, we can trust that he is working for our good, bringing the right people and experiences at the right time. The pain now is part of the happiness then. That is the deal. The same hands that hurt us heal us. Accepting pain and suffering as part of the divine plan is to acknowledge that God, in his infinite wisdom, is shaping every detail of our lives with a greater purpose. Even when God seems distant, he is preparing a future full of hope. This is the truth that sustains us. Every event, every loss, every pain is being used for our greater good. God, in his infinite wisdom and love, never takes something out of your life without intending to replace it with something better. Fully trust that he will bring the right people into your path at the ideal moment and seasons, shaping every detail with his perfect providence. Lewis tells us that, trust in God, and when you cannot see, believe that he is there. The divine plan, orchestrated by the one who knows all our days, is always the most perfect. Although sometimes the process may be painful, it is through these trials that we are shaped and strengthened. But as Psalm 37 verse 7 teaches us, rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. This rest is not passive, but an act of active faith, trusting that God is in control. And remember, even when God seems silent, he is working in your favor, preparing a future full of hope, as stated in Romans 8, verse 28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. This truth assures us that every event is being used for our greater good. See, I am doing something new. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland, according to Isaiah 43, verse 19. With these promises, remember that God never takes something out of your life without intending to replace it with something much better. So anything that did not go as you planned is God's way of saying, I have something much better for you. As it says in Proverbs 12, verse 23, a prudent man keeps his knowledge to himself, but the heart of fools blurts out folly. When you walk with the Lord, he gives you visions. He gives you visions about your future, about your life. He gives you visions about the things he wants to accomplish with you and through you. And afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. So says Joel 2, verse 28. He makes you see the future so that you can walk towards it. Not everyone can see what you see or know the future, that God is guiding you. But some people try to tell everyone what God is revealing to them. And in the end, that is a big mistake that you should not make. Yes, it is a big mistake, unless he is guiding you to speak about it. Understand that Satan does not know what you see until you tell him. He is not omnipresent. he does not know everything. So says 1 Peter 5, verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. And when he hears about what you see, he starts planning how to prevent it from happening. There are people who, because they could not keep certain things to themselves, lost the beautiful idea they received from the Spirit. And once they had the idea of something, they started telling people about it, and Satan got to know about it, and guess what he did? He devised a way to prevent the idea from materializing. Lewis tells us that the true Christian is always on guard, for he knows that the enemy never sleeps, so never give him that chance. For as it says in Proverbs 21, verse 23, whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. Lewis also tells us that prudence is a necessary virtue, for wisdom often teaches us to wait, to watch, and to discern before speaking or acting. One thing I have learned to accept is that people come and go. Friends you made in the past may no longer be around. People you expected to stay may have left, and you ask God why. Understand this. We serve an organized God. He does not allow things to happen by chance, for he always seeks the best interest of his creation and allows things to happen for a reason. Here are 5 reasons why God may remove a certain person from your life. The first may be to fulfill his divine plan. Lewis tells us that the only thing that keeps us from being happy is ourselves and our stubborn resistance to God's plan for us. God's ultimate plan is for us to live forever with him in his kingdom. And when we surrender our lives to God, we are giving him permission to do his will in our lives. Therefore, anything or anyone that hinders the fulfillment of God's plan in your life, he will remove. Jeremiah 29, verse 11 says, For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. The second reason may be that they are harmful. Lewis tells us that God gives us what he knows we need, not what we think we want. There are many harmful people in this world, and you may encounter some of them every day. Without even knowing it, they may secretly hate you or become more and more harmful over time. We can only see what people allow us to see. God sees the heart. He sees all the secret thoughts and conversations that others may have about us. God knows exactly how much we can bear. Therefore, he may remove someone from your life to protect you. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7 says, For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. The third reason may be that this person is needed elsewhere. Lewis tells us that each of us has a destiny and mission assigned by God, and sometimes this requires changes that we do not understand at the time. Now, God may remove someone from your life because that person is needed elsewhere. This can be very difficult to understand, especially if that person was a good friend or a romantic partner. Remember that God has a plan for everyone's life, including that person. God's plan may take them away from you, but understand that everything happens for a reason. They may need to fulfill their God-given purpose elsewhere. In Exodus 4, verse 18, it says, And Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said unto him, Let me go, I pray thee, and return unto my brethren, which are in Egypt, and see whether they be yet alive. And Jethro said to Moses, Go in peace. The fourth reason may be that they are not right for you. Lewis tells us that God, who sees the beginning and the end, often protects us from ourselves. taking out of our lives what, though it seems good, is not the best. Sometimes God removes someone from your life because he or she is not right for you, or the timing is not right. God may decide to bring you two together in the future, or he may not. God sees the beginning and the end. We may question why God would allow a perfect man or woman to leave our lives, but God knows us and will only allow things to happen in our lives according to his plan. Romans 8 verse 28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." And the fifth reason, God has better things reserved and wants to bless you. Lewis tells us that our Heavenly Father knows what we need and will give us the best of them if we trust and wait in his time. Sometimes we hold on to things thinking, this is the best life has to offer. We have no idea what God has in store for us. Honestly, we have no idea what he has in store, and is just waiting for us to trust him so he can pour out these blessings. In 1 Corinthians 2, verse 9, it says, "But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man, the things which God hath prepared for them that love him." And when we place our lives in God's hands, we can be sure that he is protecting us. As the psalmist tells us in Psalms 121, verse 7, 8, "The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul, the Lord, shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore." And even when we choose to do the opposite of God's will, he is always trying to get us back on the right path. For so speaks in Isaiah 30 verse 21, "And thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand, and when ye turn to the left." He loves us too much and does not want to lose us. With that, we are precious to God. So he portrays us in Matthew 10, verses 29-31. "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing? And one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father. But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear ye not, therefore. Ye are of more value than many sparrows." And when we understand that everything happens for a reason, it is easier to learn lessons from our experiences. For example, this person may have left because of something you said. Now you can learn to control your tongue better. This person may have left because of something you did to them. And now you will learn to control yourself or to respond better to people instead of reacting. So when God removes someone from your life, do not run after them. I want you to see this as a blessing in disguise, because we may not know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future. So we need to trust in God and trust that everything that happens, all the people who enter or leave our lives, is for a reason. And when they are gone, remember that they just played their role for a season. In Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1, it says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." Remember that they were there for a season and know the reason why they are there. Because not everyone deserves to be kept. Not everyone deserves to be held on to. So this is very important. We need to know the place of people in our lives and treat them accordingly. Friendship is unnecessary, like philosophy, like art. It has no survival value. Rather, it is one of those things that give value to survival. Quote from the book, The 4 Loves. There are friends for a season. There are friends for a lifetime. There are acquaintances. There are people who are there to play different roles, but the only problem is that we confuse them. So in this short walk in life, We need to know the type of people we meet, and we need to classify them accordingly. For in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33, it warns us, "Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners." When we put ourselves in God's hands, we can be sure that He is protecting us, even when we do the opposite of His will. Even when we fight and say, "I don't want to lose this person. I don't want to lose him. I don't want to lose her. I don't want a situation where I have to expose myself again." You are probably fighting heartbreak. You are probably going through a divorce. You are wondering, how can I expose myself again? How can I find someone like him? How can I find someone like her? How can I find someone who can understand me the same way this person understood me? Well, I have good news for you. There is not just one person for you. For every person that leaves, God has 1,000 people to bless you. God has 1,000 people to uplift you. God has 1,000 people to strengthen you. In Psalms 46 verse 1 it says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." And He shows this through the kind of people He sends to you. So what should we do? We must be aware and also be cautious. We must be aware and be cautious of the kind of people who are in our lives. Lewis tells us that friendship is responsible for so many joys and many pains. We must choose carefully those with whom we share our lives. And if for any reason they decide to leave, just know that their role was fulfilled. Do not fight against it. Just smile because they fulfilled their role. In Philippians 4, verses 6, 7, it says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication. With thanksgiving let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." Lewis also tells us that the peace of God is the only thing that can truly calm the human heart in its greatest distress. So I leave you with these words. Know the different types of people who come into your life. Categorize them and treat them accordingly. For in Proverbs 13, verse 20, it warns us, "He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed." And so you will be happy that you did. Now I invite everyone to this prayer. Lord my God and my Father, today I come before you with a heavy heart and a soul seeking peace. I know that in your infinite wisdom and love, you never take anything out of our lives without a great